I haven't seen any sequels on your resume either, or on your filmography.
For me, every film I do, there's a story I want to tell and something specific I want to say. And if there's more that I need to say, then I didn't do my job in the first place. So there's so many stories in my head that I still want to tell that I did that, I love it, I gave it to the world, now what's next?
So we're not going to see Love and More Basketballs or Beyond the Lights or...
No, people have tried, but...
They have? Oh, see?
Oh, yeah.
Weep for the pain we have felt in the dark hulls of ships bound for distant shores. When the wind blows, our ancestors push us to march into battle against those who enslave us. When it thunders, our ancestors demand we rip the shackles of doubt from our minds and fight with courage. We fight not just for today, but for the future. We are the spear of victory. We are the blade of freedom.
Welcome to Behind the Lens. Today, well, I'm sure you've all heard about this movie now, and if you haven't, you're not reading anything or watching television, advertising, or seeing what's happening at the movies, because The Woman King is a hit and actually got a very, very rare A+ cinema score from audiences. So it is definitely something worth checking out. And here today on Behind the Lens, we have its director, Gina Prince-Bythewood. Hi.
Hey.
Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
And congratulations on The Woman King.
Thank you.
I'm so fascinated because I don't know how easy it is to break into action filmmaking in Hollywood if you're a woman. Do they still have these old tropes that, it's got to be a man, and you have proven now, I would say time and time again, that you can do this. Was that the trick, to go out and start with Marvel pilots and things like that?
Absolutely. It is still a narrative in Hollywood that women can't do action, that they don't want to do action, and even that women don't want to watch action, which is completely untrue. And it's that horrible catch-22 where you can't get in the room unless you've done action,
right.
But how do you do action if you can't get in the room? So I had the desire to get in that big sandbox, absolutely. And I had to really plot out how can I get there, and it did start with the Marvel pilot.
Oh, Marvel's Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did the pilot of that, and once you have that Marvel by your name, it absolutely helps. And from there, went to Silver and Black, which was Sony and Marvel. And even though that didn't go, it still was like I was going to do a Marvel film, and so that absolutely helped. And I was on it for 1.5 years, so. I was storyboarding and working with ILM on the costumes and all that. So getting the old guard, again, got me in the room because I was now on that very tiny list of people. But the irony of the old guard is at Skydance, which is an incredible group of people. They said what got me in the room was actually Love and Basketball and Beyond the Lights, because they wanted a woman for it, and they wanted that level of character development for the film. And so that was very, very cool.
So they saw that in that, because that was very clear to me watching. I loved Old Guard. Actually, I reviewed that movie. But also Woman King, what really makes it work is the character development there. It is not a typical action scene every 10 minutes or things like that we see so many times in movies that just don't grab me. But this one did. I mean, every character in it is three-dimensional.
Yeah, that was absolutely intentional. Wanted to bring a humanity to these women.
Yeah.
When I pitched myself for it, I said this is a historical epic action drama. It is going to have all those elements, and I said I wanted it to feel intimately epic, and that meant that the character moments, the quiet moments, needed to be as seismic as the big set pieces. Because that's why you care, you hope, about the set pieces, because you care about who's in them.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely necessary for this. Did you have any cinematic inspirations from the past for this?
Yes, certainly, I love historical epics. I love the genre. So Braveheart, Gladiator, Last of the Mohicans, Dances with Wolves. I mean, I watched all of it.
3 out of 4 won Best Picture. You're picking them well.
There you go.
So it was those that, which are truly in the tradition of, David Lean and other things that have come before where it is character driven.
Absolutely. So to study those and then, take from those the inspiration, but then what am I going to do differently? Obviously, I have these incredible women at the forefront of it, which we'd never seen before. How do I make everything feel real and visceral and raw and believable?
Yeah. And I think it's, the story of Woman King was not known. I don't think. Did you know it when this idea came? I know Maria Bello was involved and other people in developing the story, but were you familiar with this at all?
The crazy thing is, the only reason I knew about these women and just the existence of these women is because after Black Panther, I read an article that said the Dora Milaje were based on real warriors. So that was intriguing, but it wasn't until I got the script that I really started to understand more about this kingdom, more about these women. And then, of course, once I get the job, it's an incredible deep dive into the research. And it was an incredible journey to discover these women and the society and how it worked.
Yeah, the research is key here because a lot of it, as you dive into it, is from a particular point of view that isn't necessarily the truth.
Yeah, that was the big thing of what we had to separate. And I'll give a lot of props to my production designer, Keen McKenzie, who, it was like he and I doing that incredible deep dive and really starting to separate the history that was written from just a point of view of people that had a desire to dehumanize this kingdom and these women and make us look like savages. And it just was stunning to then read history from the point of view of those who lived it, from ancestors of these women, of missionaries that traveled there. We found these journals written back in 1840. Like, it was incredible, this wealth of trueness of what this kingdom was and who these women were.
Wow, that's amazing, and when I mentioned it got an A+ cinema score, that has to feel good because I cannot tell you how rare that is. That they go out and do these surveys on the opening night and they ask everybody, and to get an A+, it's very rare territory. And then, to have the audience basically turn up for this when I understand every studio turned it down.
Yes,
with the exception of Sony.
Yeah,
TriStar.
Sony and TriStar. Yeah, I think to be at this side of it after, Viola and Kathy and Julius, they fought 7 years to get this made. And when I came aboard, it was set up at TriStar and Sony, but it didn't have the green light yet. So there was a whole other fight. But it does absolutely speak to the necessity to have a variety of different people as heads of studio. And this is Nicole Brown, who saw the value in the story and really helped with the fight.
And to get it made, what the budget was around $50 million or something like that? Ish.
We're not allowed to talk about it, but ish.
Well, I heard one studio said, "Oh yeah, we'll do it for $5 million." $5
million. That is insane.
I don't even know how that's possible.
And why you could even say that out loud and not it'd be a joke. But literally, how do you make this film for $5 million? But it speaks to a difficult thing about our industry of how people value our stories. And that was the beauty of TriStar and Sony, seeing the value in E1, putting the money behind it, and giving us this opportunity to make this.
Yeah, you mentioned Black Panther. Did the success of that, this overwhelming success of that, make it easier to do this story?
100%. I would say two films certainly. You talked about action before and how hard it is to break in as a woman. Yeah. Patty Jenkins and her success with Wonder Woman absolutely opened the door for me in the Old Guard. Her success, and that year I did Old Guard, there was 4 other women that had big tentpole films, so we give all props to her. And then Black Panther, this was set up at TriStar, but it was in development. Once Black Panther hit and changed everything, changed the game, then it suddenly got on more of a fast track of let's get this made because clearly there's an audience.
Yeah, you're very active in the Directors Guild
Yes.
of America, and in that, and when you just mentioned there were 4 other women with these things, I always heard that if one woman makes a movie and it flops, that's the whole industry for women right there until
Yeah.
the next one comes and it's a hit, and it's all like very thin line here. With the Directors Guild, how are you aiming to change that, or how is it working out now? Is it better for women now?
It's interesting. There are more opportunities, and as I said, the year that Old Guard came out, there were 5 of us. It
Right.
felt like a dramatic shift. This year, there's a really good diversity of content in films that women are directing, and so you get excited about that. But then when you actually see the numbers, it's still dismal, and
Right.
it makes no sense why there are not more female directors. Like, talent has no gender. It makes no sense. But what being involved in the Directors Guild, what the beauty of that is, we just talk more and we commiserate and we give each other advice and we support each other. And that's something we haven't had for a while. You feel like you're on an island often, but when I got Silver and Black, the first person I called was Patty Jenkins. And she was like, yeah, let's sit down. We had a 2-hour lunch and she just broke down what it's like to work on a film like that, and that was so incredibly helpful. So for me now, my door is wide open for anybody that wants to talk.
And also, you as a director, you have a lot of clout, and you're able to bring other women into
Yes.
the crafts positions,
Yeah.
the heads of departments on these movies. I know you did it with the Beyond the Lights, and had, like, I think it was a mostly all-female
Yeah, it
crew,
was.
right?
Yeah.
Was that easy to convince the financiers, or was that just you said, we're going to do it, or that's it?
I think really on the last 3 films, Beyond the Lights and then The Old Guard and Woman King, the thing of it is I'm bringing on really great craftspeople. And the key for me is looking past a resume, because so many women and people of color are so talented, but it's not reflected in the resume, but it's not because of lack of talent, it's lack of opportunity. I know I've been on that other side of that. So the women, the people of color on this crew are incredible, and they made the film better. I'm lucky to have them. So it's not a PC thing at all.
Right.
But what I'm proud of is that they all have, the Woman King. Some of them have the Old Guard because I brought a couple people back. They're like now part of the family. So now they have that on the resume, and hopefully they won't get questioned, because you do. As a director, you have to fight when their resume doesn't reflect 1,000 giant movies, but I knew what everybody would bring, the talent, but also the hunger and the passion to tell the story in the right way.
Can I ask you, there's about one man involved in this, because I think, I'm not just saying this, I think this is not just the best score I've heard him do,
Yes.
but I think it's the best score this year.
Yeah.
And this is his time with this movie, Terrence Blanch, great composer.
Yeah.
And I thought what he did with the music here was phenomenal.
I'm so glad you brought it up, because Terrence, I use the word magnificent, and I never use that word, but that's how I feel about the score. And this was a tricky one because there was no template for it.
Right.
Even temp scoring this was almost impossible, because what do you pull from? And Terrence, as soon as I got the gig, I knew that's who I wanted to go to. I respect his work tremendously. He did Love and Basketball, my first film.
Oh,
So to
wow.
be able to come, back.
Full circle there.
Yeah, and it was a tremendous process. What he said he was going to do, which was, we talked about wanting a classical feel, but with African instrumentation and voice, and ancestral kind of pull and feeling, like he delivered. And it was, we scored it in Scotland because that was literally the only orchestra available for us at that time.
Oh, wow.
But he said that was the best. Oh, I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But he did say it was the best orchestra he's ever worked with. And it was an inspired...
This is the Royal Scottish Orchestra?
It was
Wow.
insane. So we were there for 4 days. We didn't leave the stage because, our schedule was rushed and pushed. So not all of it was finished, and that was us in a room, and he was just composing, and we were pulling and pushing each other with ideas and running, music sheets to the stage to get it. I mean, it was so crazy, but in that, the vision was always so clear, and what he created, literally makes me cry, and I love the score so much.
Yeah, it is a remarkable score too, and there's so many different elements to this movie. There's love stories, and there's other things for musical themes here, and it runs all through it. I do have to ask you about all the action scenes, because you got to make this convincing that these women here can pull this off, as they did. And I thought there were some unique things used here too, including oily skin to keep men's hands off them.
You wish
That's
I could do that now.
You don't see in a male-directed kind of action film.
And the beauty of that is it came out of the research. The women, they used palm oil, which was obviously a big product of the kingdom, and they used it so that men couldn't get a grip on them. The nails that Lashana Lynch's character has, and then Tuso, that's from research. They used to soak them in brine to harden them, and then file them to points. So the fact that, we can infuse femininity into the action, but in a way that doesn't make it soft.
It's exactly right. And the style of fighting, too, is very believable here. You must have done like a 6-month boot camp or something here to get them into this kind of fighting shape, because they look like an army. Yeah, it was a beautiful thing to tell them all from the outset, you're going to do your own fighting, and you're going to do your own stunts. This is why, because it makes better action, that I can get performance. But they had to buy in, and only Lashana had done a little bit of stunts before, but nothing on this level. And it was not even
months.
Viola. Huh?
No, not even Viola. And it was months, months of 6 days a week, 2 times a day. But they did it, and it was not only were they able to do everything and make it real and believable, because that's the thing, they're fighting men, and they used to legit beat men, so how can we make that feel real? And I give so many props to Danny Hernandez, my fight and stunt coordinator, because not only did he obviously help design these fights, but he had to train these women, and to tell him, Danny, I need you to make warriors, and him having the confidence in his abilities that he could do that, because it could have gone very awry.
Oh, yeah.
But again, the women bought in. They wanted to do it all. And I just think it makes for better action.
That cast is great down the line. Now you had, I know, at least two from Barry Jenkins' Underground Railroad that I saw, that I noticed, because that was a terrific series, and I thought they were amazing. And then, of course, Viola Davis leading the charge here, and her husband, Julius, runs her production company along with her, too. Yeah. So what was that relationship like with them for you?
It was incredible. They were so passionate about this. Absolutely. And the fact that, as I said, Viola, Julius, and Kathy fought for 7 years to get this. But working with an actor as a producer, I've done it 3 times. This was the best experience, because who Viola is. 1, she's greatness personified. Right. 2, she's so smart with character and story. Yeah. Every time she came to me with, hey, I have this idea, what do you think? It always elevated either her character or the script. She's so respectful of the process, respectful of me, set such an incredible tone. It was an incredible collaboration. And she set the tone in this entire cast. It's an incredible cast who gave incredible performances, and I'm just excited for them.
Yeah, the audience, and I saw it with a real audience. Like, they actually paid money, because I think I saw you in Toronto, and it's a long story how I missed it in Toronto, but I'm so happy I saw it with a real audience, because there was a level of excitement to that. And again, with the pandemic and everything, people are coming back to theaters now. I can't imagine that this movie not seeing it in a theater, I know you have to see it, everyone has to see it their own ways, and that's great, but this is for movie theaters.
Yeah, I was very excited knowing throughout this whole process it was going to be in a theater. And when we got to sit for the first time and watch it with an audience, you realize, as you said, what you missed. The fact that people are cheering in the middle of it, or clapping, or crying together.
Yeah.
Like, that's fun because it's a collective experience. And as a filmmaker, to be able to experience that with an audience, because obviously with Old Guard on streaming, the beauty of that, of course, is it's global.
Yeah.
Like 190 countries in one day. It's amazing. But I don't get feedback because people are watching it in the privacy of their home. So to be able to sit in a theater and have people also like hear the sound mix the way I spent 2 weeks, creating it and having it be beautiful color and the bigness of film, letting it envelop you, it's a great thing.
Well, before we go, you mentioned the Old Guard a few times here. They're doing a sequel. Mm-hmm. I think you may be a producer on it, but you're not directing it.
No.
And I haven't seen any sequels on your resume either, or on your filmography.
Yeah, I just, and again, I don't disparage anybody doing sequels. Just for me, every film I do, there's a story I want to tell and something specific I want to say. And if there's more that I need to say, then I didn't do my job in the first place. So there's so many stories in my head that I still want to tell, that I did that, I love it, I gave it to the world, now what's next?
So we're not going to see Love and More Basketballs or Beyond the Lights, or...
No, people have tried, but...
They have? Oh, see?
Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious. Well, congratulations on The Woman King.
Thank you.
1. And best of luck as it continues and people see the movie and with your career. Thank you.
Thank you very much.